his teeth. You find out so many things about him. But even at that point, relationships, SMV, highest. That's what we care about. Why? Because we need to find you attractive. That is what keeps a man contained. However, let me say this, because this is very important. When the relationship begins from a man's perspective, you start to find that your non-sexual marketplace value starts to increase. So he starts to go up to 55 to 60 to 70 because this should be here. Because he's starting to spend so much more time with you. So things such as how feminine you are you pleasing to be around? Are you delightful? Can you take a joke? The soft skills, that starts to become a lot more crucial. Now, once you get to number 5, which is commitment, you start to notice something. The man at this point has said, I can see myself with this woman. I can see myself walking down the aisle with this woman. And this is for the first time where we bring in a new value system. During the commitment stage, your SMV is critical, but then your RFV comes into play, and then your non-sexual marketplace value. Now, why does this happen in this form? Again, it's about how attractive you are. It's about how fit you are. It's about how you look. Because you're meant to be a piece of art that we own, and he's meant to be a piece of art that you own. So in many ways, you want to be proud of what you own. And by ownership, I'm not talking about the physical act of owning someone. I'm referring to when you've committed yourself to someone, and therefore you're saying, we are one. And if we are one, then I would like the world to see and perceive you in the best light, which means I'd like you to be in your best form, best shape, dress well, present yourself to the outside world in a way that would make me proud. Your RFV comes in at this stage simply because the man is thinking about his lineage. And so he starts to ask the question, what is her reproductive value? How fertile is she? And this is where you tend to find that men will start to let go of women who are around 35 and above, because they have constraints on their time. We come back to this word, constraints. You have constraints on your time. Constraints that are natural and have come from nature. I said in the prior sessions that whilst it's not politically correct and whilst it's not a nice thing to say, the value of a woman, when you look at the 4 values I've given, when you take into account that we do not consider your economic intrinsic value to be high, because we're looking to provide that leadership role and we're looking to provide the resources. So we're only looking at 3 values: sexual marketplace value, your non-sexual marketplace value, and your fertility reproductive value. But only 2 of them matter at the early stages of the relationship. And only 2 of those really matter in order for us to commit to you: your sexual marketplace value and your RFV, your reproductive fertility value. And what that means is that for a woman, as you age, your value to a man in the marketplace starts to drop. Ladies, your value decreases with age. Now, your value to your family, your value to society, your value to your loved ones certainly increases, but they are the benefactors of all of what they've put in you over your entire life. And so they stand to gain, which is why your value to your family and to the society increases, because you're part of society, you contribute to society, you work, you make money, you pay taxes. But in the marketplace, in the sexual marketplace, in the relationship marketplace, a man standing and looking at a stage of women We do not know you. We do not know any of you. You have no indebtedness to us. You're not indebted to any of us. And we are not indebted to you. Our responsibility is simply to choose. And what that means is that we're not wedded to the intrinsic value that you do have as an individual, made in the image of God and in his likeness. I get all of that. We get all of that. But we're simply saying, in the sexual marketplace, in the relationship marketplace, the older you are, the less valuable you are. The same thing applies to products. There are no products that appreciate in value with time. As a matter of fact, there is a correlation between your age, an inverse correlation between your age and your value in the sexual marketplace for a woman. As your age increases, your value decreases. So, for commitment, sexual marketplace value is important, and your reproductive marketplace value is important because we're asking, can she reproduce? So, we tend to focus on women, ideally within this age group, preferably within this age group. For the simple reason I explained previously, that between 18 and 22 is 5 years. Between 23 and 27 is 5 years. Between 28 and 32 is 5 years. Between 33 and 35 is 3 years. So in total you have 18 years to get your act together. And this is where I say the feminist movement really have let women down, because they started pumping this ideology into the ears of women at age 14 or earlier, and they say to women, your choice. The world is your oyster. You don't have to compromise. Men are your enemies. You can do anything you can do, which is true. You can be who you can be, which is true. But where they failed is they never brought in nature and consequences and constraints. So you see women who get to 35 and then say, now I've achieved all I wanted to achieve. I'm a senior consultant. I make 6 figures. I work in Canary Wharf. I work in Westminster. I work in central London. I have a home. I have some investments. I'm ready for a man. I'm ready for a mate. And in the 18-year period from 18 to 35, she's had really no experience working with, collaborating with, engaging with, negotiating with a man. So she has no emotional or relational intelligence. So she's still an 18-year-old relationally, but she's 35 years old in age. And she goes into the marketplace and she tries with a few men, and after the first year, she's 36, and she gets dumped. And then she tries again, a few short-term relationships, and she gets dumped a few times. She's 37. She doesn't understand why she's not being selected. The reason is simple. At that age, your RFV is almost next to nothing. Now, this is why it's almost next to nothing. Between 18 and 22, 5 years. 5 divided by 18 means that you have wasted 28% of your reproductive value and your sexual marketplace value if you don't maximize this period. So most young girls who are saying, well, I just want to go to uni, go to college and just party and have fun, and when I'm 25, I'll start thinking about boys. That's fine. Again, you have the choice. But the consequence of that is that you lose 28% of your reproductive value, because your eggs and the quality of your eggs and the quantity of your eggs decreases with age. Between 23 and 27, you lose another 28%. So by age 27, you've already lost 56% of your overall reproductive and sexual marketplace value because you're getting old. Between 28 and 32, another 28%, which takes you to 84%. So by age 32, as you turn 33, unfortunately, you've lost 84% of your sexual marketplace value, roughly, And certainly you've lost 84% of your reproductive value. Because above 35, we're now dealing with luck and chance. And both luck, chance, and if you want to include another, happenstance and probability, these are not strategies. The strategy would have been at this point in time to say, baby, and I'm speaking to my daughter now, baby, you need to be dependent, not independent. You need to be dependent on a man to ensure that you're able to get through all of these stages, because it takes two to tango. You cannot achieve this on your own. Interdependence is what you need. You need to have in your mind what a man brings in terms of his value to your life and what you bring in terms of your value to his life. And therefore, you need to understand how to negotiate, collaborate, come to the table with your honest thoughts, have thoughtful disagreements, respectable, thoughtful disagreements, have a methodology for resolving conflicts, be sincere, but let it be on the basis of not, ideologies and things you've learned from your humanities classes and on the news. Let it be based on what I call idea meritocracy, where the best ideas are what both of you select. You're thinking about the best decision, not based on what society says, but the best decision for both of you. Unfortunately, between 33 and 35, sadly, you only have 16% left. Now, this is why you can see the difference in what men care about. What this means is that from a reproductive fertility value perspective, this is important to keep in mind. I hope you can still see what I'm about to say. If you're between 18 and 22, you get a score of between 9 and 10 in terms of your reproductive value, fertility value. If you're 23 to 27, you get between 7 and 8 as a score. You get between 5 and 6 if you're between 28 and 32, and then you get between 3 and 4. So just think about this. For those women who are between 33 and 35, that is the score the man is giving you. Why? Because usually when you start trying to date at 33, it takes a year, let's say, for you guys to commit to each other. You're 34, then you decide to get married. You're 35, then you try to have a baby. At best, maybe you get one baby that is not high risk, and everything else is high risk. Now, there are women who have kids at 30, 39, and there are certainly women who have kids at 41. That is not a strategy for the intelligent modern women. Is it possible? Yes, but that's a silly question to ask. The question should be, is it probable? And is it plausible? Now, all things are possible. Fewer things are probable, and even much fewer things are plausible. So start early. Now, let me come back to this two final stages. This means that during your dedication phase, that what matters to the men is your SMV, your reproductive fertility value, and then your NSMV. And then for marriage, SMV, RMV, NSMV. This, if you were going to put this in priority, now it does not equate to 100%. It doesn't, because all men are different. I would say 100%. Well, maybe I'll say 80%, because we recognize we cannot get it all. Your reproductive value, very important. In many ways, I'll give this 90%, because the man really wants to know, can you reproduce? If he wants 4 kids and you're 32 or 33, how does he guarantee he can have 4? Even if you take those 4 kids in succession, you start at 34, you have the first child at 35, you have the second child at 36, you have the third child at 37, you have the fourth child at 38. Now, I said in one of the prior sessions that women will put on between 10 and 15 kilograms per child. Now, it's not cumulative, because the lady loses some of that. But let's say you have 4 kids. This is 40 to 60 kilograms. If she loses, half of that, then you're looking at 20 to 30 kilograms additional weight. What that would mean is that her SMV declines drastically because it has to do with her weight, her shape, her physique, drastically. But the man gets all of his RFV anyway, but her SMV drops. And this is where most marriages you tend to find that women complain that once they've had children, that the husband cheats and is no longer interested. Which is why most men prefer younger women, because here is the reality. A woman who is 22, who has 4 kids, she has the first one at 23, second one at 24, third one at 25, fourth one at 26. She's still in this category. She still has an SMV of 7 and 8 and a reproductive value of between 7 and 8, which is very, very high. But this is the most important statement I'll make. Because she's still very young, her body gets to recover much faster and repair much better than a woman who's 36. And this would mean that even if she has her final child at 25, at 26 she can start the repair process. In 2 years' time, at 28, her body's fully repaired. She's still at the boundary and is still at the 7-8 category. And therefore what you find is men are still very proud of their wives, still very attracted to their wives at that age. Now, even if they decided to have kids in stages, one at 22, second one at 24, third one at 28, the fact still remains that the quality of her eggs, the quantity of her eggs are still very high at 27, at 26, at 28. And therefore her sexual marketplace value remains very high. Let me tie all of this together as I conclude. I talked about that there is a relationship between price and value. Price goes up to meet value, or price will drop to meet value. Women, as you age, the price men are willing to pay for you drops because your value is dropping. But for a younger woman, the price men are willing to pay for a younger woman is much higher. The difference between both, sadly, is time. We get 24 hours every day. One thing we have as human beings is equality on a daily basis in relation to time, except we die. But if we make it through the day, everyone gets 24 hours a day. And the most important question that we all have to ask ourselves is, where am I? Where am I trying to get to? What is my North Star? And how do I get there? And if every day you're moving progressively in that direction, we call that success. The progressive realization of a worthwhile goal. You know where you are, you're moving progressively in the direction of your goal, we call that success. And so that's all I would recommend. Every day, do something that moves you progressively towards your goal. And if you do that, the words of Henry David Thoreau comes to mind, in which he said, that if you can imagine the life you want, and if every day you strive to achieve it, then you will meet with success unexpectedly in uncommon hours. Which means that someday, as long as you're making small daily steps progressively and you hold steadfast to your dream, that someday you will look up and say, oh shit, I've achieved my goal. I have achieved my dream. Every day you wake up, you hold steadily to your dream. Whether that dream is marriage, intimacy, dedication, commitment, or relationship, you wake up every day and say, am I progressively moving in the direction of my dream? That if you do that, wake up every day, And if you endeavor to live the life that you've imagined, and those who move confidently in that direction, they will meet with success unexpectedly in uncommon hours. Henry David Thoreau. Powerful, powerful statement. I believe it to be true. However, in order for this to be your reality, there are three things women have to do, especially young women. I do not care that much about women who are older, and let me say women who are 35 and above. The same way that I do not care that much for men in that same age group. And the reason is simple. We become set in our ways. We've seen too much, we've experienced too much, our paradigms are set, we have habits that cannot change, and we struggle to change them. Whereas younger women and younger men, you still have so much. You're not, the imprint of people's values and people's morals and people's ideologies are not really that strong in your subconscious mind, and therefore you can change. To do that, you need three things. You're going to have to learn, which is what you're doing if you're listening to this. And if you've had the patience to listen to a guy scribble on a paper for up to an hour. Certainly what he's saying is not politically correct, and it's not nice according to modern standards. It sounds as though he's attacking women. But you have to learn. Second, you have to unlearn. You're going to have to unlearn all this feminist and womanist nonsense. I speak very frankly. I speak very honestly. I do make, in this case, I'm making a judgment of value, and I am making a value judgment. And number three, you have to relearn. But there is something I haven't said. The source that you learn from has to change. Ladies learn too much from women about men. You're going to have to start learning from men. My advice to you is don't accept what I've just said, don't reject what I've just shared, and don't neglect what you've heard. Find other men who think differently to I do. See what they have to say, and ask yourself a simple question as you listen to them, myself included. Can this information, and will this information help me achieve the outcomes that I want for my life? Can this make me the best version of myself? Can this push me towards my best and highest potential? If the answer is yes, then I will implore you, and I would ask of you to apply it. And every day do something different, do something new. And hopefully someday you will look up and say, wow, I am where I want to be relationally. And I really do hope that you do.